to, to you got to sell it to the president, and you got to gain the president's approval. The vice president also attends cabinet meetings. So not only are you with the Senate, you are also subject to go to cabinet meetings. So the role of the vice president is as such that you're not a race car parked in any garage. You are a full fronter, both at the Senate as well as at the executive. Also, the vice president must be in sync with the president. A vice president is not one that claims on the radio and denigrates the president. The vice president must know that the president is one, and the vice president is a helping mate of the president.
Thank you, Madam Brown. And I just wanted to, say something. Probably each of these candidates have these papers, the friending issue. So what we say is, when you mount the podium, you have 10 minutes to address all of these 10 issues, but we ask you one at the time. I wanted to say that so it doesn't look as though when you come, you respond to one of the questions for 10 minutes. No, that's not it. You have 10 minutes to respond to all of the questions. So thank you for responding to the questions about the vice president. One thing that every one of us in this country are aware of now is the issue of drug affecting the lives of our young people. Madam Brown, what will your government do to address the issue of the substance abuse in our country?
Number one, I'd like to say that, in Liberia, we always see one elephant sits in the center of the room and everybody's looking at it and nobody wants to address it. I tell you one thing, as I was coming here, I saw so many checkpoints. What are they checking for? Because you see as many checkpoints as you see, then it means that we should be able to enforce the policies that will stop drugs from coming our country. I work at a port authority as Deputy Managing Director for Administration. One of the reasons why I accepted Robert Franz Morris's proposal to be his deputy, his vice president, and I have tendered my resignation to His Excellency Dr. George Mananga, is because these things are very important. Look, especially in the past 6 years, the proliferation of drugs is everywhere. We have the port here, which is the gateway to the nation's economy. You have the airport, which is also the gateway to the nation's economy, and you also have the border. So if you pay the security officers in Liberia, as we speak now, they take home $90 with the paycheck of $90. With any people who have Firestone, they look at our soil, they tested our soil, and they know that our soil is good. our soil is very, very good. So those people been here, they've been farming here. But we here, I don't think among all of us here, we don't even know if they have any government farms that are being subsidized. You know, we think backward. How can we subsidize importation, but we cannot subsidize agriculture? And we're looking for employment. The youth can be employed on farms and they can go to school. Every county here has, schools there. We can also build more schools, but our youth can go to farms. So if government learn to use most of its money that it is using to subsidize importation of rice, we can use that money to subsidize farming here.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Vice Presidential Candidate. We fought war in this country and we destroyed almost every fabric of our nation. Liberians are interested in peace. Recently, all of you political parties were at the Farmington Declaration signing on to making sure that these elections will be non-violent. What is your candidate's stance on Liberia's peace?
First of all, prior to the war, Liberia wasn't known to be a country where people fought war all the time. It is greed to perpetuate. People come to power, they've been elected. If they haven't done anything, if they have failed, after that time, allow the people to peacefully cast their ballots. And if you lose, step aside and allow the next person to proceed. That's how it works. Whether be a political party or be an independent, we choose independent because we don't want to cater to one group of people. We want to cater to the entire citizenry of Liberia. So we want to say that one of the reasons, and then we'll get to it, one of the reasons in Africa you will find coup is because after a person has been elected, they perpetuate themselves, on the Liberian people. And that cannot be.
So, Madam Brown, we're running out of time. Can we just look at corruption quickly? Corruption is an issue in Liberia.
Well, before you go, 1 minute. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna give extra 5 minutes because there's just 3. So each person will get 15 minutes. So let her take, when this time is finished, she will get extra 5. Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, independent people.
You're good.
Okay.
Corruption.
Let's get back to him. Why would you want to corrupt? In our jobs, for me personally, when you come with your job, when you come to anything with passion drives excellence. Before I became a bishop, corruption has never been my thing because number one is as my adult years, I work with Honda Motors. I'm the platinum level receiver. I'm the first black woman to be sales manager. In fact, first woman at that institution. So you are paid based on merit. You are not paid based on what you're not paid on based on what they bring for projects. Or all of that, you make money, you make millions of dollars. One of the things that brought, and you people should look at my track record. When I work with these services, let me expound on it. But then I look at it, how can the people that come to do business with us are supposed to help us, take us out of poverty, not to put us into poverty. So I went to a singular war with them that if you came to help us to do business, then you know what, we share the profit. You get 50%, we get 50%. At the end of the day, after deliberations back and forth, it don't need war, it don't need legislation, it needs dialogue. When we brought the people to the table, from 0.07%, which is $4,000 per year.
How do you intend to tackle corruption? Let's go to the how.
That's the how now.
That's what we want.
How is like I could have been paid, but I didn't accept to be paid. I made them to give us 50-50 profit sharing. 50-50 from 0.07 to 50-50 is that's 43% extra. That's what the nation got. So the port authority at that time was able to get millions and millions and millions of dollars in. That means we would
So
take
what will you do to people that will be caught in corrupt, and how do you tackle that?
people that
I'm
will
not
be-
talking about you as
people
a person.
but that's what I'm saying is that you gotta critique what did I do before. For you to cast vote for me, it's not me coming and doing tautology. Look at the practical side. What did I do? Because I will be the chief advisor to the president. Anyone who does corruption, it should be terminated.
Okay.
Period.
Madam Brown, thank you. Liberia's development needs are prioritized. It depends on what government is in power. Tell us exactly about general infrastructure development, the needs of your government, your priorities, your candidates' priorities. What will you do?
One of the first thing we need to do is energy. When you have energy in your country, when you have electricity in your country, consistent 24-hour electricity, investors will come. When investors come, when they invest, you would have created jobs. Even in the energy sector itself, you would have had youth empowerment. It's not rocket science. You don't have no current. How many investors want to come here? We have to attract investors. People are working at Firestone. People are working at the National Food Authority. People are working at places where investors have made investment. We do this to create jobs for the people.
To work currency, let's go to the to work currency regime. How do you reconcile and one country using two different currencies? What are you going to do to synchronize or harmonize in one, the 12 currency into one? Sorry.
Long ago, when I was a little girl, Liberia had only one currency. But at the same time, the dual currency also is not a bad thing. The dual currency help us to keep, to take care of domestic affairs, to buy, like if you're constructing, basically, that one currency that is internal is good for exchange. The foreign currency can also be used to input. But again, we have to prioritize? What do we input? What can we raise in our country? And what do we input? So those are the economic meetings that we have to come to the table. I once had an opportunity to tell, I don't know whether it's allowed, His Excellency, that every now and then, every maybe 2-3 months, we need to have a roundtable discussion on way forward, okay, what is working and what is not
working. Madam Brown, thank you. Foreign policy of any country plays an important role in the governance process. It attracts development and does a lot. Talk to us exactly about Liberia's foreign policy, the Russian-Ukraine war, on a CC Coffee Brown vice presidency and a Morris presidency.
First of all, our ally, our traditional
Ducor debates.
Thank you so much, Madam Brown. We have 15 minutes and we could not exhaust all the questions, but we look forward to engaging more. So I know you can talk about that more so the public can know. With that, we will call on.
Can you please put your hands together for her?
And now that we've had 15 minutes, we appreciate that we can do at least 1 minute per question. Yeah, 1 minute per question, because the audience need to know how you're going to handle these issues. These are training issues that are affecting the life of every Liberian. So Clarence, can you?
Thank you. Madam Kennedy, thank you so much. Welcome. So you have 15 solid minutes, and Lesiata said it will be good if you use 1 minute to answer each of the questions. When you are elected, your party is elected, you will become vice president of our country. Madam Kennedy, can you please tell us what is the role of the Vice President of Liberia as provided for by the Liberian Constitution?
Well, our constitution says that the vice president is to assist the president in the discharge of duty. So let me just put it another way around. A vice president is an executive assistant who should possess a mastery of office skills, who should be able to demonstrate ability, assume responsibility with all direct supervision, who should be able to make judgment within the scope of assigned authority. And I think if that is done, you will indeed be aiding the president in every way.
Thank you. So now in your role as executive assistant to the president, how are you going to assist the president in fighting drugs and substance abuse in Liberia?
And interestingly, I'm one of the few candidates who visit the ghettos and prostitution camps. I am one of the few candidates who can enter any ghetto and retrieve my cell phone if it gets missing. So I just give you a few history backwards. In 2006, there was a group of guys at the Barclay Training Center, and they call that base Solari Base. I don't know how many persons here are familiar with Solari Base. And the word Solari means death is better than life. And those guys say if you kill them, when they come to arm rob you and you kill them, they are happy because they are going, the trouble is over. So we're able to take babies, mothers, young girls, and the list goes on. So just last month, one of my students' phone got missing, or they stole the whole bag. We went on the field to play a game, and they stole his bag. So sorry, I gotta be late, but I read all I wanted so the men can understand it. Airspace. That's how they talk. So you can't go in the ghetto and say, excuse me, guys, did you see my phone? No, they won't even listen to you. So I enter that ghetto and say, hey, my loyalty, my man, how you doing about that bad on narco gentleman say you go inside, huh? So you're fired the mother there, give me the money. And they were angry because the guy didn't tell them he had money in the bag. So they chased him, they brought him, they whipped him, and I got the 2 phones back. So this is one vice president that is a good executive assistant.
But you didn't really tell us the how.
How
you fight drugs abuse. How? What are your strategies?
We must first be able to build camps to encamp these young kids. Like I told you, I said we took some from the street. I told my little background. We took them from the street, we put them into a camp, we fed them. And one of the things we should do, not just feeding them, but we should give them skills. After you have taken these guys out of those camps or out of the ghettos, you have to give them skills. If there's no skill, they return to where they're from. Look right on Johnson Street. You have the police station right at Slipway. Right on there, people are smoking drugs. It tells you law and order are broken down.
Okay, Madam Candidate, let's talk a little bit about agriculture. When you talk to Liberians, they say we have fertile land and we have everything here. You know, it depends on who you talk to, but people say we're using very good portion of our national budget to import food in the country. What will you do differently?
In our bid to transform Liberia, on our platform, we have zones that we decided to create, like Lofa, Bong, Nima, grow rice, and you go to other counties where you grow pepper, bitter ball, vegetables, and go to other counties where you can just produce oil, and the list goes on. In other counties where we do fishing, those that are along the seaside, and so on and so forth. It's sad that we have to eat everything into this country imported. Some of us now fighting not to eat certain kind of food because everything is imported. Health-wise, it's not safe for any one of us. So we will create food zones in all the counties to ensure that Liberia becomes self-sufficient in food production.
Sustaining the peace. So we've fought hard and earned the peace we enjoy today. Some of us were around during the heat of the crisis, and we don't want to encounter what happened back then. Moving forward, how are you, your government, if you win, will tackle, help us maintain our peace and not get us back to war?
So much is involved, but the little I will say here is, we have good laws, very good laws. And in order to live in a free and peaceful environment, we must be able at all levels to ensure that those laws are implemented. if somebody does wrong and he's not reprimanded, at the end of the day, he goes to court, he gets no justice. The next thing, he takes the law in his hand. And that's what caused us to be, going through all of these kind of situation where there is no peace here, there is no peace there. When somebody does wrong, he must be able to accept the wrong, because you see, both the person who has done the wrong and the person who has been offended need justice. But when justice fails, it won't work. So on our own government, we ensure that we have the laws that we have on the book. The laws are implemented to the letter.
Let's talk about corruption, a menace eating up the Liberian society. Give us practical understanding about how your government will tackle corruption.
And you see, every time I talk, I'll give you not just understanding, but also example. I'm standing here as a clear example of somebody who tried to expose corruption. And at the end of the day, the people you expose, nothing happens. Goes back to the law. Where is our law? Why people are not implemented? Actually, I got my whistleblower award. I'm still awaiting that. Well, you have fundings for special occasion, and somebody just want to squander it. If you took your cell phones right now and multiply, at least the last I know was a lawmaker makes $15,000. If you are very nice with the rate, let's put it at 175, you see that one lawmaker makes $2,625,000 Liberian dollars. 2 million. One lawmaker, 1 month. If you divide that with 150, you are paying 100 police officers that's supposed to be protecting life and property and the rest of it. Where are we? When you fight these things and nobody say that, this person deserves, the award, or this person who has done it wrong should be punished, and nothing happens, you give other people the guts to go ahead and be corrupt. And people get this money, not okay. Don't say, you are not envy or jealous of the amount that they receive. But if you are receiving so much, don't eat the grumpy and the eating. Give it to those who are entitled to it. Give each and every Liberian what he or she deserves.
Infrastructure. We, at our age, Liberia, we're still struggling with road connectivity. We're still struggling with better hospitals. We're still struggling with schools. What are you going to do?
As per the World Bank and Millennium Challenge, Liberia needs approximately $2 billion to do all of our roads. Then the question will be, where do we get the money from? In a society where every year you see people printing money. Every year they print the money, you see small, the next day you don't see it again. What can we do first to stabilize our economy, get things on course, ensure that we have the kind of country that we want? Building the roads, fine, we all want it, but we have to first find the fundings to ensure that we get that $2 billion, and not to come and start naming bad road medicine, and we pass on so many roads. Because I show when I was coming here, this is Bon County, right? I show when I was coming here, and you got somebody from Bon County, right? When I was coming here, I know what I'm saying, right? I'd say maybe the medicine either expired or it got finished from the road drugstore. I don't want them happen. So in order to build our country, we need it. We will lobby for it. And interestingly, my presidential candidate has negotiated. He worked for this government for 10 years, and he has negotiated for funding on behalf of the past government under Madam Salif. You see the hydro, he negotiated for fundings, the RRA, and the list goes on. He has international contacts, so we're going to do it. But the thing about the money coming to the country, it must be used for the intended purpose.
Schools and health centers.
Come again?
Schools and health centers.
And by having 6 schools in Monserrato County, I will give you an example of everything you speak here, because I'm not coming to tell you I will pay you school when I get by nobody capable. I got over 50 students on scholarship. And we have this free school got in Barmestown. For the first time we opened the school, we have 125 students. Just imagine the rest of Bon County. Imagine the rest of the county. How many kids are out of school? Can we just maybe do some reading tents in community as government? All the money UNICEF and USAID gave for school, can we just get some buses and put some teachers who are graduating from teachers college and say, look, government is going to pay you. Just go into the community, create a tent, and start teaching the kids at least how to read.
Okay. Thank you. Let's talk about Liberia's dual currency regime, the effect on the economy, amidst the apparent lack of what others would call the control of foreign exchange and all these things.
The foreign exchange, I think we need the US dollars, right? When I was a kid, US dollar was on a market. I go the other way around. We didn't have banknotes. We had coins. We had a Liberian coin. So we needed 10 cents. 10 cents, not your $10 coin. Our 10 cents beautiful more than that coin. 10 cents to pay our way on the bus. And it was so difficult to find 10 cents. But now we see it's even difficult to find $5 and $10. So what's the way forward? The way forward is to ensure that we open up our country to investors. The more people come in, the better it's going to be. We increase banking activities so that Liberia can become a central point. Many years ago, every West African country came to Liberia, whether for school or for health or whatever, and more besides because we had the currency. So the American currency will back us, yes, but one thing I think we need to do is to ensure that the currency should be used, like Liberian currency should be used all over. I give you a scenario. I went to a rice dealer before. I used to sell rice, and went to buy the rice, and a Liberian boy went to buy his rice, and they were demanding that the boy pay US dollars. And I told them not only my wash here it will happen. This Liberian dollar, you will take it from him because it's our currency. How many of us will stand up for our currency? We won't because we are afraid. Because he went to the police, he called anybody, nothing happens. Go back to the culture of impunity. So there's a way out. We need to just have the kind of funding and investor to back our currency as well. I'm not a banker, but at least my ABC knowledge.
Liberia's foreign policy, the Russian and Ukraine war. What would be your government's stance?
You know, it'd be good to be talking about Russia and Ukraine, yeah. When for me, it's important, right? It's very important. And the reason why it's important, I'll tell you, because there was an overthrow in Niger, right? And now you got Russia backing the dissidents or the rebels. So it's scary. What we should be discussing here, how can we protect Liberia's border? Because right here, Freetown, there's problem. Nigeria has joined Niger to ensure that, you know, those rebels continue. So I want to talk about Liberia. I am a proud Liberian. I love Liberia, but I'm not proud of Liberia. We have too much on our hands. Let's wash our own clothes first, hang it all dry, and then we can think on Russia and the rest of them.
Okay, Madam. You know, the Liberian people say we got something in the country called Yoleje Live. When somebody does something, they say you're Live, that Liberian business. Tell us about transitional justice needs, retroactive or, you know, retributive justice. Call for war and economic crimes code. What's your candidate's stand?
I will welcome the war economic crime code, and I also welcome us implementing our laws. I'll go back to that many times. More besides, we must punish people when they do wrong. We got to say that retribution is sure. When people do wrong, they must be punished. If I did wrong, you don't punish me. You do wrong, you don't get punished. Then everybody thinks it's a way of life, and that has to stop. There must be an end, and that is necessary. So, I mean, basically, that's it.
So last but not the least, it's intentional because we're going to really hit that point. How are you, your government, intending to tackle the many issues that affect women and children, especially violence against women, and then our sexual and reproductive health?
Look, I go to the ghetto to take prostitutes out. We got men in coat suit that are sleeping with these girls for $50. On our government, rest assured that with government power, we will ensure that the prostitution camps are cleared.
Sexual and reproductive health?
Sexual and reproductive health. When we have the kind of health facilities and the kind of structure that we need, putting in the different kind of machines, getting the kind of drugs and everything else, we will ensure that those happen on our government.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You
Thank
can
you,
please
everyone.
put your hands together for Vice Presidential candidate Grace Kwan. And so we will welcome Vice Presidential candidate Dr. Emmanuel Ure Yagbawolo. And we'll also advise that you please take advantage of the time, at least 1 minute to a question. It will be in your favor.
Except I will appeal that I time it because some of the questions require a little bit more time than other. So probably won't get a corruption.
Well, you got 15
You have to
anyway. You
deliver
got 15.
timely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have
If
to
you were
deliver
to
timely
do
to the
one per
Liberian
question,
people.
you still have 5.
So-
You got 15 minutes.
Wonderful. Great.
Yeah. So let's hit the ball. How do you understand your role as per our constitution?
So the Constitution is very clear on the role of the vice presidency. It says the vice president shall assist. The use of shall is mandatory. And then at the same time, the vice president shall preside over
Liberia's development? What are his priorities if he was elected president of Liberia?
So, road, water, very important. We need to get those one that human right. If you move, your right is abused. It's not supposed to be so. What do? We make sure public work stations are available in every county. With yellow machine, the military helping, other people are helping so that we maintain the county road year round. That's infrastructure. Electricity, we harness our river system, the solar system. That's something I also do. To be able to empower even the villages. In fact, right now, you can't go with me to Gamu. We have done an innovation there. We have it's all powered by heat, by water. It does not use gasoline or anything. So when it comes to the innovation on energy, we know how to do it. But we got to free the money. We got to free the money for us to do it. And water system, the same solar energy and the rest of it. So when those platforms are there, this country will pick up.
So thank you. Your standard bearer, the councillor, is well known for human rights, advocating for human rights. So what will be his strategy when it comes to defending women's rights? Because we know women's rights are human rights. What will be a strategy to tackle the different issues affecting us women?
To tackle this, we will be intentional.
Very intentional.
Because the way society is structured historically to disadvantage women. So for us to make sure to get this, we got to sit and plan and think through the long-term approach, making sure the laws on the book already to protect women against rape, all that one, make sure they are all implemented very strongly. The more and more of advantage to men versus disadvantage to women, we start to insert those. So that is very, very big on it. And I'm extremely big on women's rights. We don't have the time, but women can assure. That's why we assure that women get land right in this country. Women today, the traditional women in the traditional system, they never had any land right. But our law today, they have right. So we know what we're talking about.
All right. The duality of our currency, Liberia's dual currency regime, candidate Dr. Yakpaulo, the effect on our economy amidst the apparent lack of control of foreign exchange by the Central Bank of Liberia, if you will. What's the way forward on a Gonglo Yakpaulo's presidency?
We are opting for single currency. Why? Because there where West Africa is moving into ECO. So we are not isolated. We are embedded within ECOWAS. So it's a bit difficult to implement ECO in Liberia with US currency and Liberian currency. It's difficult to regulate. The central bank cannot regulate US dollar. It's just too difficult. We are opting for single Liberian currency and backed by our productivity because the money is valued based on the country export capacity. So our mineral resources will use it wisely. It will back our currency, single currency. It will be strong.
Thank you very much. I like when you say Liberia is not alone. No man is an ally. So what is your stand on the Russia and Ukraine war when it comes to international relations?
We are for justice. So the war in Ukraine, for Russia to invade another country is wrong. And for peace to prevail, let Russia leave from Ukraine land. They are independent country. That's an archaic way of trying to capture territory. So we are for justice.
Let's talk about transitional justice in the context of either retroactive or retributive justice. And Liberians call for the establishment of war crimes court in Liberia. What's your stand?
We will, my time is over, but we are for it, okay? We are for war crime, economic crime. I'm going to expand on the using my own life story as an example why we need a war crime, but no time.
I think we have 5 more minutes. They said 50, right? Oh, all together, right? Oh, okay. Go ahead. Just conclude.
Okay, so that's my clock.
Yes, that's a class.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And more time. Thank you.
Thank you. You can clap for Dr. Yakpaulo. Thank you. Thanks to all of the candidates for responding to the different questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was engaging. We say thank you to the candidates, and we want to turn it over to our lead moderator, John Colley.
Good. This is why we call your leaders. I don't blame them, but I blame them. They have polarized the politics of the country. They have paid journalists to get at others, and they're doing it on all sides. So they think all are in the same business. No, you're not able to pay me. I don't make potato green garden. Yeah, all right. I don't need to insult anybody to be anything. That's the fear they got. But we ask you to come to Ducor debates. That lecture we're having. It's simple. All right? Ducor debates across Liberia today from the William V.S. Tubman Gray High School. Agbanga, Liberia is taking a break to be back. We are back. Segment 4. Inter-candidates questions and answers. Now it's time for you to face each other. It's your time now. Question to any candidate by you. Anybody question, but here are the rules. Since you are just 3, we are going to allow 3 questions each to, thank you, 3 questions each and a rebuttal. What that means is that you ask, so Mrs. Brown will ask Mrs. One question, 3 questions, and when she answers, she has a right to say, I disagree with all that you said. This is how I believe it should be. That's, in essence, what the rebuttal here will be. Hence, questions. Who has question for who? Anybody? Question to any of the candidates. You listen. You all on the same wavelength? Nobody got question? Oh, wow. The thing got to begin. Please come here. Come here, of course. That's where you belong. You got one question for who? It's beginning. How many questions do you have?
I have one question for
To who?
Madam Kwan, and also the same question to Madam Coffee Brown.
Great. So,
Wonderful.
who you calling first?
I'm going to call on Madam Coffee Brown first.
Coffee Brown, please. Face Dr. Emmanuel Yakwawolo. Right there. Thank you, madam. And if you're in disagreement with the answer, you're entitled to your rebuttal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice to meet
Yeah,
you, madam.
yeah,
Very,
please.
very, very nice to be here and interact with you.
Right.
It's an honor. But Liberia problem is not like the country doesn't have money. Actually, prior to the war, we had a small budget, but the road connectivity, everything was working to a certain degree, right? Not 100%. But today we are now in like $700 million. But these services are not provided. And the war been over long since now. What strategy do you have to save the country money to be able to invest in the people?
All right, Canada Yakwawolo to Cecilia Coffee Brown. Your answer to him. Thank you.
That's excellent question, the way I understand it. Let me tell you one of the reasons why people opt for things like, road project opposed to human capital development, because that's how the people corrupt. If you say human capital, like I had a project, the project with Maritime was human capital development. So you hire the right amount of people, you pay them the right, amount of money, they projects you have to do in the community are not, expensive. Whereas it is easier when you hear road connectivity, they're just saying that, to give you a lot of hype. What they do is that people negotiate with these people because that's where the millions and millions connectivity, but actually that's the way to solicit, that's the way to get more money for themselves. Because you are doing human capital development, you won't get that substantial amount of money. And most of our roads, even they're very substandard. Because say somebody gave you a proposal for this road, if it's 10 million, you asking for 8 million, and you're leaving the implementer with only 2 million. And because they desperately need that project to either have their name being heard somewhere, they will agree. So you see, before the project is implemented, the people who are giving those projects would have already taken more money for themselves.
And his question is, so what will be your strategy to deal with all that?
Come again?
What will be your strategy to stop all that? Roads must be built.
Of course.
So what will you do to stop corruption and ensure that the road is built with the millions?
Well, those things they are not secret. That's when you have the civil society, you have every sector of the government involved in it, so that at the end of the day, we get, what we're supposed to get, opposed to what is given. If you have the involvement,
Will involve civil society and the likes.
we have to, because